the past few months, we've been introducing you to TikTokers and YouTubers who have done the most unimaginable and scandalous things for clicks. Not only did a young woman named Playmate Tessie laugh at terminally ill people, but a boy named Zachary Latham even killed his own neighbor just because he thought it would bring him recognition on the internet. In today's video, we will present you a man who takes it to the extreme. Nikocado Avocado, who is about to take his own life just for a few clicks. We'll show you in detail the sick way he does it, and also explain why people are willing to do such horrible things to themselves, just because they think they'll be celebrated on the web for it. It's going to get really gross, so stay tuned here at Wonderlane. Before we get to why Nikocado Avocado is currently in the process of ending his life for just a few clicks, however, let's briefly explain who he is in the first place. Nikocado Avocado's real name is Nicholas Perry, and he's a 29-year-old YouTuber from the US. Tragically, Nikocado had to go through a traumatic childhood, as he was not only adopted by a foster family, but was also prescribed antidepressants at the age of 7, which changed his life permanently. However, we will go into more detail about these circumstances, and especially the consequence of his sad biography a little later. Before we do that, we want to show you what kind of content Nikocado has been particularly noticeable for lately. Eating. However, not to a normal extent, but in really unimaginable quantities. For some time now, Nikocado Avocado's videos have consisted of only one thing: how he eats the fattiest and unhealthiest foods in gigantic quantities in front of the camera. It's not uncommon to see him filming himself eating 10,000 calories at once, or stuffing himself with several XXL pizzas in a very short time. Each time, he tries to set personal bests and eat more each time than the time before. In the meantime, he even uploads new videos almost every day just to show how much he can eat. It is almost needless to say that this lifestyle is extremely unhealthy and can leave serious damage in the long run, but the case of Nikocado Avocado is particularly extreme. Indeed, according to some observers, some time ago, his situation has become an extreme threat to his health, and even his life. Not only does Nikocado suffer from lung damage, which is only kept in check by a respiratory mask, but some time ago, he also broke some ribs without any outside influence, because they could no longer bear the weight of his own belly. As if that wasn't bad enough, he was also recently officially classified as physically disabled, which means that he has to be examined by doctors on a regular basis. According to many experts, it's therefore only a matter of time before his body can no longer withstand these extreme loads, and Nikocado Avocado will perish from them if he does not stop eating so much immediately. Now, a question arises, namely, how could it have come so far? In the case of Nikocado Avocado, this extreme obesity is particularly surprising. After all, a few years ago, it looked like this. Until some time ago, Nikocado was actually a normal young adult with numerous ambitions for his life. He played the violin at an extremely high level, and even ate a vegan diet, which is hard to believe today. Accordingly, he also focused his earlier content on positive messaging, and encouraged his followers to pursue their goals and address their mental health. Since Nikocado himself suffered from mental problems for a long time, it was a matter close to his heart to ensure ensure that mental problems are finally addressed openly and that no one has to be ashamed of them. One day, however, the course of his life was to change. Nikocado published a mukbang video, a video in which he ate a sumptuous meal in front of a camera. At the time, this video was just an exception, but in fact, Nikocado's mukbang went through the roof. Of course, this recognition led Nikocado to start making more and more mukbangs, eating more and more extreme meals. This developed a momentum of its own, and Nikocado's mukbang videos became partly viral hits with millions of views. He acquired a real fan base that seemed to enjoy how he tried to consume gigantic amounts of fast food and reached his physical limits in the process. However, this supposed recognition had fatal consequences for Nikocado, and even though he now has over 2 million subscribers on YouTube, he also tripled his weight to over 400 pounds within a few years. The case of Nikocado is extremely tragic for several reasons. Because Nikocado Avocado is a perfect example of what drastic consequences false recognition on the internet can have. For Nikocado, who was always looking for recognition due to his bad childhood and lack of parental affection, it seems that the only option to be respected was to risk his own health. However, the comments that encouraged him to eat more and more were not intended to improve his mental health, but served mainly to amuse the audience. Nikocado, however, interpreted them as genuine recognition, which is why they incited him to eat more and more and more. So in his case, the mixture of mental problems, lack of self-confidence, and a toxic internet culture led him to put his life on the line for clicks, which are ultimately just a digital form of attention. So, the first comments celebrating his overeating led him to replace his positive content, which was probably also linked to good personal development, with self-destructive behavior that only served the purpose of getting more and more attention and affection. The story of Nikocado Avocado shows what sometimes thoughtless comments on the internet can lead to. What is entertainment and amusement for some can be understood by some as a call to do bad things to themselves just to please others. As you can see, despite all the anonymity, it is still important how you communicate on the internet, and always be aware of the fact that behind every face, behind every comment, and every post you see is a person with their own story and their own psyche. In some cases, as a viewer and commenter, you can be jointly responsible for the fate of other people. At the end of this video, we want to come to a positive turn. You see, some time ago, Nikocado Avocado indicated that he wanted to radically change his life. He realized that his behavior was mainly designed to please others, while he was extremely damaging his own health. He has even said that from now on, he will try to lose weight again in order to dedicate himself to positive content again in the long run, which should help him and other people in difficult situations. While he now has a long road ahead of him, as his blatant eating habits have led to binge eating, among other things, which is difficult to combat, especially on a psychological level, if Nikocado Avocado surrounds himself with the right people, it is not impossible that he will still be able to escape the end of his life at the last minute. And that's it with our video about Nikocado Avocado. Write us in the comments what you think about it, and whether you also think that thoughtless comments on the internet can have serious consequences. Otherwise, like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to Wonderlane for more exciting stories, and we'll see you next time, here at Wonderlane.